Hi, I'm Andrew McCrae. Welcome to our farm and ranch in northwest Missouri. My great-great-grandfather settled here in 1910, and I'm the fifth generation to grow crops and livestock here. As a farmer myself, I know the highs and lows of this life, the issues we confront every day, some new, some as old as farming itself. This show is a place to talk with farmers and others in the ag industry about topics that mean something to us, topics that can improve the present and future of our operations. This is Farming the Countryside. Tim Nuss joins me here on Farming the Countryside. Glad to get to visit with Tim. And he is a winner here at the Top Producer Conference that we have for the Horizon winner. Tim, I'm glad to get the chance to visit with you. There's so much in your background. I don't know how we're going to get through it all, but we'll try. So give me a little bit of your story. You're in California. You grew up on a farm and kind of were away from it a little bit. It sounds like kind of came back from it. I don't know if you truly say you were ever away from it. I think you're always tied to it, but kind of give folks the thumbnail sketch of where you grew up and how you got involved in farming.
Yep. Yeah. So part of a fifth generation farming family. Our family's farmed in California for 3 generations. And prior to that, farmed in the Midwest in North Dakota and Nebraska before my grandfather moved the family out to California. So we farm in Lodi, California, which is a little bit south of Sacramento, kind of the northern end of the Central Valley. So grew up in the industry on the farm. I'm the middle of 3 boys. So earliest jobs were the odd jobs on the farm, working, setting up drip irrigation and hoeing weeds and all the fun stuff you do as farm kids.
So you were doing this, and then at some point you decided you wanted to kind of come back to it. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. So grew up on the farm and then went away to school, studied business in school and graduated in 2009. And being kind of a small family farm at the time in 2009, there was, obviously lean times on the farm. So there wasn't necessarily a job available for me on the farm right away. Our older brother after college had come back to the farm and was farming alongside my dad, kind of being the day-to-day farm manager. And I kind of took a different path off the farm, went to work in the fresh produce industry for about a decade, focused on produce exports. So it was kind of farm adjacent, working for vertically integrated companies that were exporting products overseas. So things like table grapes and citrus and apples. So I was building relationships with kind of big producers up and down the U.S. West Coast, exporting their products primarily into Asia. So it was a fun job, kind of cutting my teeth in the produce industry. It's, you're buying and selling container volumes worth of product and building relationships with producers and then buyers on the other side, and got to travel quite a bit. So it was a fun job to have in your 20s, but not something you'd want to do for your entire career. So did that, for about a decade, and then really got interested in kind of ag tech and stuff that was happening there with venture capital flowing into agriculture, and worked for a few different startups, and then made my way full circle back to the family farm in late 2022 to come on board to manage the business side of the operation. So I'm running all of our budgets, our finances, all the accounting, kind of back office work that my dad and older brother don't like doing. So I was able to come in with a nice complementary skill set to help grow the operation alongside of them.
So when you came back, a lot of folks that we have on this program might be the more traditional corn, soybean type of folks, maybe have cattle. Obviously, you aren't. So describe what that's like, because a lot of us think, okay, I've got to have a lot of acreage to be able to do this. I'm guessing the types of crops you're growing don't necessarily need a lot of acreage. We're dealing with high dollar crops. Would that be right that you're coming back into?
Yep. Yeah. We farm about 1,500 acres and it's all annual specialty crops. So we grow things like garlic, processing tomatoes, grow a whole range of peppers, doing bell peppers, banana peppers, jalapenos, a few different specialty ones, doing watermelon, basil, pumpkins, cucumbers. So pretty diverse range, 10 plus crops in a given year. We still have some rotational stuff. We have winter wheat and silage corn that we'll kind of use as placeholders, but it's a pretty dynamic operation where every year we're rotating one crop into another crop year over year. So a lot of different irrigation types and furrow spacing. And so it's a lot of complexity to the operation. And then it's primarily like a B2B type offering where we're a large contract grower for big processors and marketers. So we're not directly selling to grocery stores. We're selling to usually intermediaries that are processing our tomatoes and turning them into pasta sauce or diced tomatoes, that kind of thing.
Because of that, then, are you pretty well reliant on already having something contracted, I'm guessing, to know what you're going to grow each year? And then how far out does that process begin? Because I know that's part of your story, is building the relationships to have down channel a place to go with the crops that you're growing.
Totally. Yeah. For the crops that we grow, annual contracting is pretty customary. There's not a ton of multi-year contracts available. So it's typically like once we get through harvest for any given crop, it's kind of meeting with that buyer and saying, what are you thinking for next year? Like, are you thinking the same acreage, up or down, and kind of having those conversations. usually November, December, and then January, February is when we're really locking in the plan for the year and signing contracts and ordering seed. And we do a lot of transplants, so we're ordering seed and getting those delivered to a commercial nursery, trying to get all the pieces in place. So right now, when we're talking in early February, it's kind of the peak of planting mode where we'll start planting in about April. So we're kind of heads down trying to get everything tuned up for the season.
Because of that, then talk about the role of working with those down chain folks, establishing those relationships. Do those tend then to last for a long time, those relationships?
Yep. I mean, like very common in agriculture, it's a relationship business. So a lot of the contracts and buyers that we have, we've dealt with for 10 plus years. And it's something that we do year over year where we want to be a consistent, stable supplier for those buyers, not be kind of in and out any given year based on what's happening in the market. So we try to be kind of stable acreage, stable suppliers for the various crops that we're doing. But definitely a strategy of ours is diversification, where being in a challenging farm economy right now, it's like commodity pricing has been flatter down on a lot of what we grow, like similar to folks in the row crop world. And so we've been trying to like just, spread the risk around and have multiple crops where if few things are down, we can hopefully make it up on other crops.
Because you've got so many crops, I mean, some people that have corn and beans like myself think, oh, well, it's hard to keep track of corn and beans. You're like juggling all these. How do you keep on top of being able to grow all of those and do it well? I think that would be a really big challenge.
It's definitely a big challenge. Like we have some pretty expansive Google Sheets where we're managing kind of all of our fields and plant dates and all of that. So I'd like to say we have a sophisticated farm management software, but for the range of crops we grow, it's been really challenging to find like a tool that meets every single use case that we have on the farm. So it's a mixture of a lot of spreadsheets and tracking various things that are happening. We have a relationship with a group called Pinion Agribusiness, which is a CPA firm, but they also offer a lot of like fractionalized back office type work. So we've been able to do leverage their fractionalized back office. It's called Pinion IO, where we can automate a lot of the back end to free my time up to be more strategic and not be kind of heads down, like day to day coding every single bill kind of thing.
Yeah. When you came back, you brought some innovation to your operation. Talk about what you brought back, because I know one of your things is trying to not only establish relationships, but also trying to keep up with innovation to be able to obviously make this work and make it profitable. What did you see that you needed to bring back to the operation to do that?
Yeah, kind of what I just mentioned, a little like automation on the back office side of just kind of freeing up our time. Of there's tools that are out there now that you can eliminate a lot of busy work that happens that kind of ties up a lot of farmers' time. So really kind of shoring up the back office side of things, and then really focusing on business development activities of how do we go from lower value crops to higher value crops and kind of increase our revenue and expand kind of what we can do as a farm. So a lot of it has been focused on bringing on new crops into the portfolio, watermelons, pumpkins, basil, a few of the ones that we brought on the past couple of years, just building those relationships with buyers and proving ourselves as a capable producer for those buyers. And then kind of on the AgTech side, like me and my younger brother about 8 years ago started a podcast called The Modern Acre. This was prior to us being involved in the family farm full time, but we were starting to talk to our dad and our older brother Derek more about what was happening back on the family farm. And at the time, back in 2018, there weren't a ton of ag podcasts. There was a few, but we thought it was a great place to kind of learn and connect and get plugged back into the industry that we grew up in. So we started The Modern Acre back then and been doing an episode a week for 8 years. I think we're 450 episodes in, but every week we're talking to ag tech founders or ag investors, ag business executives, innovative farmers. So it's given us just a really good window to build a network and an audience along the way and just kind of get plugged in with trends that are emerging within agriculture. So through the podcast, it's unlocked a lot of opportunities for the farm of just talking to companies doing innovative things of, is this something we want to trial on the farm and roll out to the operation? So we've looked at a lot of different technologies on that aspect. We've been looking a lot at the robotic weeding space, where we spent a ton on hand weeding for the various crops that we grow. And a couple of years ago, it was still like the use case was like leafy greens and Salinas. And now you start to see these companies starting to commercialize in different crop types. And so I think there's a lot of promise there. So we've looked at that. We've done, aerial application of inputs with drone applicators, which is kind of new and novel for us. And then a lot of it has been like investing in irrigation infrastructure where, 3-4 years ago, a lot of what we did was furrow flood irrigated. And now we're probably 80% drip irrigated subsurface irrigation.
When I first read your bio, I had to smile because, I'm a farmer who started a podcast and I'm about 1 year behind you. And I find it's a way that I learn. I try to have guests on that cover a variety of, topics, but it's a way I learn. It sounds like for you, the podcast, yeah, sure, you're creating something people hopefully want to listen to and do listen to, but it's the way you connect with people as well. And it's the way you're gaining knowledge from different folks to be able to apply into your operation. Is that correct?
Totally. Yeah. It's like talking to people that are smarter than me on a weekly basis is just an awesome opportunity to learn and get plugged in with the industry. And it's really been kind of this flywheel that's driving a lot of the different activities that me and my younger brother are focused on. Like, it's benefited the farm, it's benefited growing the podcast. And then we have a few other entrepreneurial ventures on top of that as well.
So that's one thing I wanted to ask you. I know there's specific things and you mentioned some of them, but in general, because you're visiting with what I would consider kind of thought leaders in the ag space, are there any general trends that you would share with this audience? Because most people listening to this are either farming or tied to farming somehow. Where do you see things headed? What are some of the trends that they're talking about a lot that really anybody in agriculture should be as a whole thinking about?
Yeah, I hate to use like AI, but it just is like an overused thing that everybody's talking about. But I'm starting to see use cases and applications that are actually like real world implications for us on our farm, where like a lot of companies, it's been more of like a marketing gimmick of like, we have an AI chatbot, but I really think it's starting to roll out in practice on how farmers are being able to use it. Like, we're leveraging a lot of the software tools that we use on our kind of back office side, using AI to improve and speed up that process. I know on the laser weed or the See and Spray weeding machines that we were just talking about, like the models are getting quicker and quicker, where 3 or 4 years ago, when I talked to these companies and say, we have, this crop and they don't have a model built for it, it's going to be a 1 year turnaround to produce a model to actually address that crop. And now it's really instantaneous. It's like, let's take pictures for a day, and then next week or tomorrow we'll come back with a model that's production ready. So you're just seeing like the iteration curve of a lot of these technologies move a lot faster with that adoption. Something that like I think is still kind of tip of the spear, but it's really like different form factors and like humanoid robots, I think is really interesting. Like, this is kind of not being talked a lot about yet, but I feel like it's going to come very quickly into agriculture on being able to insert we've started to automate tractors and some of that, but I think the form factor with humanoids is going to be really interesting in the next couple of years.
Do you think that you'll probably see it in your operations sooner than most, because your operations are almost always so much more labor intensive than what the rest of agriculture would be, maybe out in the Midwest or other locations?
Most likely, yeah, because a lot of what we do is hand harvested, or we're doing a lot of hand weeding where we're not able to cover large swaths of acreage with one operator on a combine. So yeah, probably a little bit more pronounced in kind of specialty crop or markets where the cost of labor is so high. Our minimum wage just went up to $17. So the cost of labor is just astronomical, and minimum wage or overtime kicks in at 40 hours. So the costs keep rising every year.
You mentioned labor, and I want to ask this question. It's not like a political question, just for farmers to understand. What is your labor situation right now? Are you able to get the labor you need? Is it difficult? I mean, obviously we've got lots of things going on in the world, but I'm just curious what farmers like yourself are experiencing out there as far as being able to get the labor that you need.
Yeah. So for the crops that we grow, like, we haven't had an issue with availability of labor. We have kind of our core team of tractor drivers, irrigators that are with us pretty much year round. And then for a lot of the other labor, it's using farm labor contractors to come in and help with those various activities, whether it's hand harvest or hand weeding. We do a lot of kind of custom transplant work where there's just custom guys that will come in and transplant certain crops that are specialized, of like, these are the watermelon transplant guys. And so we're able to bring in different contractors to help with some of those activities. Some of the buyers that we work with have access to H2A labor, which is a different program where the company that we grow the garlic for has their own workforce where they're able to bring in their own labor for that. So sometimes you like read these storylines of like, there's no labor and like there's this huge challenge, and like we haven't seen really like a lack of availability. Like, the costs continue to go up. Like, we've seen that rise, but in terms of like being able to get bodies on the farm, we haven't seen any issues in our particular area. And I mean, this could be different in different parts of California. It's a very big state with a lot of different crop types and timing windows and all of that.
Right. Do you have to do things that help you to be a good employer of choice, though? And I know sometimes it's contracted, but my experience talking with some folks in California is still, obviously, I want to be a place that people want to come work. Has that been a challenge for you at all, to continue to be what I would call an employer of choice?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we have long-term relationships with the different contractors that we use and like have, good rapport with them on their crews that come in. So we haven't had any kind of like churn or issues where it's like, oh, they don't want to work on this particular farm. So we haven't seen that particular issue pop up.
Let's talk about the Top Producer Conference. You're the next gen winner. So the younger generation is it's what it celebrates. I know that you may not know this selection committee and necessarily exactly how you got this award, but you've obviously have done some things to get you there. What is it that do you think that committee saw that made you the next gen winner at the Top Producer Conference here in 2026?
Well, it's a super big honor and definitely view it as like a family team award where like I wouldn't be where I am without the support of my family and a lot of the stuff that I'm working on. I'm partners with my younger brother Tyler on, so it's definitely feels like a team award. But I think it's a little bit of a different approach where a lot of farms, when they think about expansion, it's like how do they vertically integrate and like tack on a logistics company or a produce trading company and kind of vertically integrate that way. I think we've looked at about it a little bit differently of what are kind of complementary businesses that might be off farm that are in the ag industry that could help support everything that we're doing. So the podcast has been a flywheel that's allowed us to build a new platform that we launched about a year ago called AgList, which is an online platform for discovering biologicals, where we saw an opportunity in that space with a lot of tailwinds of kind of moving away from synthetics and using more biologicals. And being farmers ourselves, found the space very overwhelming. Like there's a lot of companies out there that are doing a ton of marketing, and farmers just don't know where to get started. Of like, I just want to like figure out which 5 products are relevant to me and then start making a decision on what I want to use versus trying to boil the ocean and look at 1,000 products. And so we launched this platform, and it's really kind of almost like Yelp for biologicals, where a grower can get in and with a matter of a couple of clicks find value. You could say I'm a tomato farmer in California and I'm looking for a biostimulant, and it'll give you, here's the top 10 products that are actually relevant for that. And it'll pull in grower endorsements where growers, researchers, agronomists can actually endorse those products to build that social proof. Like when a company reaches out to me and like tries to pitch a product, like the first thing I do is call folks I'm friendly with that are farmers and say, hey, have you heard of this company or this product? And usually kind of like get a stamp of approval from another farmer is like typically how it works in agriculture. And so we wanted to kind of build that into the platform as well. So it's been an awesome start. We've got hundreds of products on the platform, and I think 30 plus companies that are participating. So it's been a nice thing to do kind of in conjunction with the podcast and with the farm as well.
That platform, and talking about biologicals, obviously in farm country, that can be something that people have had all kinds of different positive and negative experiences with. Are you finding that for the most part they have been positive? Are you finding wildly different results? What are you finding? Because it seems like people, as you mentioned, sometimes don't really know what to do in that space.
Yeah, I think the challenge is that it's very nuanced in biologicals, where with synthetics, I think your outcomes are a little bit easier and more quantifiable, where like it's with biologicals, you got to be a little bit more timely with applications. Like there's all these different variables that can impact, I think, the outcome of using a biological. So there's definitely like ton of success stories that coming out of it. I think if you're looking to apply a biological exactly as you apply synthetic, you might be in for some challenges there, just because there's some nuance there. And like there's no one size fits all with biologicals. Like the climate that we farm in California, like you go an hour north of us or an hour south of it, it's in a totally different zone. And the products that would work on our farm might not work an hour north or an hour south. And so I think that's what makes it a little bit challenging to navigate through. But there's definitely success stories and products that worked. We've used quite a bit on our farm. Like the biostimulant space seems to be a little bit more robust and advanced in terms of kind of different things you could do on the fertility side. The biocontrol, crop protection, I think is still a little bit more up and coming. Like the biofungicides are starting to get a lot of traction. We've seen success with those, and some product classes like bioherbicides is more challenging, where there's not a ton of companies looking to kind of replace that. Like how do you replace Roundup or glyphosate? There's no real alternative right now. And so there needs to be more investment in some of these categories of biocontrols.
With you thinking about those biostimulants, for you, has it been cost saving? Has it been because of consumer interest? Because in many cases, you're a lot closer to the end user than many of us are. What has been the mix driving it for you?
Combination of both. Yeah, it's like, can you create a fertility program that's cheaper than the synthetic option or conventional option? Like that's interesting. There's also a lot of consumer consumers don't want chemicals on their food, or the perception of chemicals on their food. We can debate that quite extensively. And so, like, especially in California, it's more restriction on certain materials that you can apply. So it's really trying to position ourselves to kind of get out ahead of it and see what materials work for our context. Haven't really seen like demand of like there's going to be a premium for these kind of products, but it's really can we drive potential savings out of the operation and get ahead of potential like materials being limited or harder to use being farming in California.
Because you are in touch with companies that are often taking those products and using them with consumers, or maybe you even get feedback directly from consumers, what are you hearing from folks that we in general in farming need to be aware of? What is it the consumers want? And a lot of these companies are, in a sense, I'll put in quotes, demanding of you as you grow these crops.
Yeah, like for us, we're still like a step or two removed from the consumer because we're selling to like marketers or processors. So we're not hearing like the feedback directly, but I think there is, a lot of consumer perception around like what's actually going into food. So any kind of confidence you can give your supplier, your buyers, the better. Like, so we go through pretty extensive like kind of food safety testing where we were Primus GFS certified, which is a pretty extensive process to ensure everything that we grow is done in a safe manner. So we're doing, water testing on all the different sites where we're pulling in irrigation water to test for various like E. coli, salmonella, that kind of stuff. So we're ensuring kind of the safety of the fruit. And with that comes kind of sustainability reporting where they're wanting to know a little bit more about how you're growing, how you're producing. So it's just hoops you have to jump through and kind of navigate that side of things.
Tim, let's wind up with this. Obviously, as a next gen winner, perhaps other younger folks in agriculture are looking to you as an example. What advice would you give for younger operators, no matter what they might be doing? It can be a variety of things, just lessons you've learned in the time that you've been involved in farming.
Yeah, I think building a network, like however you want to do that, like my brother and I decided to do a podcast and has been tremendously valuable. Probably like the best thing that we've done beyond our professional careers to kind of help expand the network. So it doesn't have to be a podcast. It could be creating, video content, but just a way to get plugged in and contribute. I think that just feeds a lot of benefits. And I think now more than ever, like to build in agriculture is easier than ever before with AI. There's a lot of tools where if you have an idea that you can build something very quickly to bring it to life, like AgList is probably a good example of that. We were able to come up with an idea and like push something out there that's working a year later. And 3-4 years ago, that probably would have required like us raising capital to actually build the software. We were able to do it with kind of a very limited budget to bring it to market. So those tools, I think, make it really exciting.
Tim, before we go, just let people know the Ag Podcast again and where you're at online, where they can find all of these things that we've talked about.
Yep. The podcast is The Modern Acre. You can find it on anywhere you listen to your podcasts. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. And then AgList is just aglist.com.
Tim, I appreciate the time. Congratulations again on the award. Hopefully folks are going to get to see you in Nashville and other places around as well.
Sounds great. Thanks, Andrew.